So here's our outline for tonight. First, we're going to talk about the history of imperialist intervention in Haiti, starting with a brief summary of the Haitian Revolution and its aftermath. And then we'll dive a little deeper into US intervention in the 20th century, as well as the early 21st century. And then we'll talk more about the United Nations MINUSTA occupation. Then we'll move over to the present crisis in Haiti from the crisis under the former president, Jovenel Moise. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name. And then talk about the current president Ariel Henry, and his rise to power after Moise's assassination, and now his incompetent rule has also continued to contribute to the ongoing protests. Then we'll talk about the current state of the uprising right now, including the tactics used by the opposition, as well as the working class's role in the situation, and then go on to talk about the responses of President Henry as well as those of the United States and its imperialist allies. And then we'll finish it off with how we can show solidarity here at home, and talk about how the struggle intersects with issues here, as well as the demands to be made regarding the struggle, as well as tactics we can use to promote the issue. All right. Sorry, give me a moment to pull up my script. All right, thank you. I'm going to start off tonight with a brief recap of the Haitian Revolution and its aftermath. In 1804, Haitians overthrew the French colonial regime and became a free Black republic. Following this, France, Spain, and Britain all tried to invade the new nation and were successfully repelled by Haiti. And France only recognized Haiti's independence after demanding that Haiti pay reparations to their colonial oppressors for their quote-unquote lost land, and has been in debt ever since that happened. So the US didn't recognize Haiti's independence until after the Civil War and the abolishment of Southern plantation slavery. Afterwards, the country's only concern with Haiti was dominating its economy and influence over the region. In 1995, the US invaded and occupied Haiti until 1934, during which it brutally repressed liberation fighters, installed handpicked leaders, and created the Haitian army. Even after the occupation ended, the US continued to intervene during the Cold War. To establish a counter-revolutionary ally against Cuba and the Caribbean, it backed the father-son dictatorship of Francois and Jean-Claude Duvalier, also known as Papa Doc and Baby Doc. During their reign, the country was open to multinational corporations, which created a hyper-exploitive sweatshop economy, and the army, police, and infamous death squad, the Tonton Mascoutes, I probably butchered that name, but all of whom were backed by the US, and they killed over 60,000 Haitians during this time. In 1986, Baby Doc's regime was overthrown in the popular insurrectionary movement, which led to the first free democratic election in the country, with liberation theologist Jean-Bertrand Aristide, again, I probably butchered that name, becoming the new president of Haiti. In 1991, the US aided and abetted a coup against the elected government and tolerated an interim government for 3 years until Haitian resistance mounted, and thousands of refugees fleeing to the US were jailed in Guantanamo Bay in Florida under the Clinton administration. In response to this ongoing crisis, the US once again invaded Haiti and imposed the United Nations occupation and restored Aristide to power. His restoration was not a pretty one, as it came with many vile conditions, including that he installed neoliberal economic reforms and resigned in 1996, which he and his successor partially resisted. In 2001, Aristide was once again elected and demanded reparations from France from the debt-inducing reparations that were imposed on Haiti to be recognized as independent. In response to this, the US, Canada, and France backed a coup against Aristide in 2004, and he was abducted and deported into exile and eventually South Africa. After the 2004 coup, another US-led United Nations occupation known as MINUSTA commenced. and lasted until 2017. During this time, many horrific atrocities against the Haitian people were committed. These include, but are probably not limited to, suppressing democratic resistance, sexually assaulting women and girls as young as 11 years old, and introducing the cholera disease, which murdered about 10,000 Haitians. Excuse me. Economically, Haiti continued to be decimated from neoliberalism, and this manifested through the privatization of social services and state industry, which turned the country into what some activists refer to as a republic of NGOs, which neglected to meet the human needs far more than the state institutions did. Excuse me. And now I want to move on to the current state, more recent and current crisis in Haiti, starting with the former president Jovenel Moise. Excuse me. For the past 3 years, Haiti has been in the practically constant state of protest, which was sparked by many acts of corruption from the former president Moise. Some of these include sacking political opponents who attempted to restrict his power and investigate his corruption, dissolving parliament and canceling elections in 2019, and refusing to step down after his term ended in February 2020. In July 2021, he was assassinated under unknown circumstances. After his assassination, current president Ariel Henry took power without a democratic election and remains unpopular amongst the Haitian people. He promised to restore elections and political stability to the country as a means to quell the anti-Moise protests. And unsurprisingly, he hasn't followed through with those promises. I want to share some quick statistics about the living conditions of the Haitian people under Henry. 60% of Haitians live in poverty, 50% lack access to clean drinking water, 30% are food insecure, and inflation rates are currently near 30%. Henry has done nothing to resolve these poor living conditions and continues to turn his back on the nation's working class and oppressed. In August 2021, various organizations signed the Montana Agreement, which called for an interim government to govern the country and provide a solution that avoided mass unrest in the country until safe, free, and fair elections are called. In response to this, Henry, the US, and their imperialist allies rejected this, and the agreement became reduced to a symbolic expression of avoiding the ever-growing discontent and government breakdown. And rather than the unrest dying down, the rejection has only strengthened the movement and increased the amount of people attending the protests. And in June 2022, Henry signed an agreement with the IMF, which opened Haiti to the possibility of receiving a loan if it implements the necessary austerity. One of these austerity policies has been eliminating fuel subsidies, which increased the price of gas from $2 to $4.78 a gallon, which was the spark that brought the current unrest to its current intensity. Now we'll move on to the current state of the unrest and cover the tactics used by the protesters, as well as the working class's role in the struggle and the responses from Henry and the imperialist allies. Right now, protesters are using many violent tactics across the country, including building barricades to fend off police, setting fires to cars and trucks, and burning and looting banks, government buildings, politicians' homes, and food storage facilities. In fact, unrest has grown so much that protesters have been able to paralyze the functioning of many cities, including the capital, Port-au-Prince. Sorry if I butchered that name. Regarding the role of the working class in Haiti, workers across many sectors are taking an increasing role in the movement. This past February, women in garment factories led militant strikes to combat poverty wages and sexism for management, to which they built barricades to fight against police. These hyper-exploited workers produce clothes for American multinational corporations, including Gap, Old Navy, and JCPenney. And during this past August, dock workers refused to work after armed gangs hijacked oil shipments. And this past September brought an uptick in strikes and brought a 2-day nationwide strike that was called by various unions and organizations, which shut down the transportation, telecommunications, and other industries during the strike. It also succeeded in bringing workers onto the streets, and many led marches for 3 days afterwards. As for demands being made, the main demand is for Ariel Henry to step down. However, chants have been sprung up over the past few weeks, acknowledging that his resignation is not enough to help the country, with one of these chants calling for uprooting. In response to all of this, the Haitian people's collective strength have rendered the police and state forces in the country ineffective for quelling their widespread unrest. Henry is now calling on the US and imperialist allies to send in military aid and is using the cholera disease, government breakdown, and gang activity as justification for the intervention. He conveniently omits his role in the government breakdown, that many of these gangs are backed and embraced by the government, and that cholera was introduced to Haiti during the oppressive MINUSTA occupation. In response to Henry's request, the United Nations met on October 21st to discuss the issue in Haiti, and the Biden administration had already drafted a Security Council resolution supporting the immediate deployment of a rapid action force in the country. As of today, though, no forces have been deployed to Haiti yet. Hopefully it stays that way. And for our final section, I want to discuss how we can best show our solidarity with the ongoing Haitian struggle, starting with how it intersects with domestic issues here in the US. The primary two issues that connect to the Haitian struggle are the abuse and caging of Haitian migrants and the rampantly destructive role of US intervention has on Haiti and the rest of the world. There have been many instances of Haitian migrants being whipped and beaten by Border Patrol agents, as well as the US Coast Guard, intercepting them at sea before detaining them. And right now, the Biden administration is currently in talks of using Guantanamo Bay to detain Haitian asylum seekers. As for the issue of US intervention, the history and future of its intervention in Haiti is just one of the many sections of its grip on the rest of the world. We need to keep watch of any measures that the US might take against Haiti and show opposition, however, and as much as we can. We also need to intersect it with its role in other nations, including the recent sanctions against Iran and its military aid against Israel and the continuing onslaught against Palestinians. As for demands, I listed 4 key demands that I believe need to be made against the US and their allies. These are for the US to recognize the right of self-determination to Haiti and withdraw all interventionist efforts immediately. For the abolishment of ICE and all Border Patrol agencies and allowing free open immigration for Haitian refugees and those of all peoples. For the abolishment of the US Armed Forces, the United Nations, the CIA, the IMF, and all national and international institutions involved in the intervention and oppression of nations to serve the global bourgeoisie. For the diversion of all funds and resources of these said institutions into human and environmental needs, both within the US and as reparations to Haiti and other nations that have been pillaged by Western imperialism. In terms of tactics, we must employ as revolutionary socialists, we need to spread the message of the Haitian opposition through our propaganda, our speeches, and interventions and actions. We need to have a presence at any anti-war and Haitian solidarity actions and intervene as best as we can. We need to share articles on the situation that provide leftist, internationalist, and pro-worker perspectives, as well as debunk any false narratives by bourgeois media sources, as well as those from the opportunist left. And that's it, folks. And that's it, comrades. Thank you for listening. And here's a list of sources for where I got most of my information. Thanks, comrades.